Hey guys, this is Robert K. Graham. I am running for City Council. I'm running for the at-large seat here in the city of Plainfield. Election day is Tuesday, and hopefully you have casted your vote by mail. The reason why I'm running is I want to continue to give back to my community like I've always been, even before I even thought about running to be a politician. So think of me as someone who's not a politician that's getting into politics, and I want to just make sure that your children has someone that they can relate to that's also a leader in our community. When your children think of a successful leader, I want them to think of someone that they can talk to, that will actually come to them and sit on your porch. All right. I want to make sure that I know the names of all of our members of our community. I want to make sure that I hear the voices of every single person in our community. Again, I'm running for the at-large seat, so that means I am the council person for Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3, and Ward 4. My objective is to make sure that every ward knows and feels in their heart of hearts that they live in the very best ward.
Welcome to the Hustle Crew Podcast. It's your girl, Chrissy.
It's your boy, Rob.
And of course, today we got a guest, somebody extremely
very special
important.
guest. We have Mr. Robert K. Graham here, who is running for councilman at large in Plainfield.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yep.
We're
so happy that you're here.
Yep.
Welcome to the most controversial podcast.
We feel very. We came a long way from Rod's basement. He's sitting here in his beautiful home, man.
Okay.
It's a beautiful home you got here.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you.
for having us.
made us definitely feel like at home.
Yeah, true story,
Sure.
man. I mean, let's just all, I mean, at the end of the day, we're family.
Sure.
I mean, I think we all should be family.
Mm.
I mean, love is what can conquer the world and make this whole world a better place. We just love, right?
Yeah. Now, you bought food for me, so that's the way to my heart. I'm happy about that, man,
As you can see. But this is a great honor, to even be sitting here with you.
Okay.
So I do thank you. I thank you again for this.
Yeah.
Also, your fellow, what do you say, Norkian? How do you say it?
A fellow
Newarker?
Norkian.
A fellow
Norker.
Norker.
Okay.
Norker.
Norker, I think that's how you say it.
I think that's on the spot. That is something you just made that up.
Yeah, that's something.
I think you just made that up.
It was definitely made up.
I think I read it in the Webster's one time.
Yeah, sure. That's definitely not in the Webster's. So anyway.
Because you was just like, you from Newark? Me too.
That's it. And the pronunciation.
Yes, you have to say it right. Because I know someone that doesn't know how to say it right.
Yeah.
Your fellow girl Dashni over here. She say
from the suburbs.
It's different ways to pronounce it.
Yeah.
It's Newark to people who is not from Newark, and it's Newark for the people that live there.
Exactly.
N-O-R-K.
It's N-O-R-K.
Yes.
That's how it's spelled. So how was your bringing up in Newark?
Fun. I was raised as an only child. My mom was kind of like the black sheep of the family because she was a teen parent, and back then that was forbidden. But when I was born, I mean, I was the only grandchild, so it was me, my mother, my two uncles, and my aunt Janet, and my grandmother, my grandfather. So they were a married couple. My grandfather drove a bus. My grandmother worked for the phone company. Of course, with me being the only grandchild, the only child in the house, period, the world was mine, right?
Sounds like my son right now.
Yep. Until my mother moved out. And of course, with her wanting her freedom and her independence, she could only move where she could afford. So, I went from a single family home to an apartment building, and so I feel like my life changed.
Drastic change.
Yeah.
Drastic change.
Yeah.
It was like a cultural shock.
Yeah.
Although we were still in the city of Newark, but my world had changed. The world was different.
Yeah.
And so that kind of like defined the beginning of my upbringing. You know what I mean? Because I was this innocent child, just having fun, and with me being an only child of a single mom, so there were a lot of things that single mothers do when they have a boy, where if there's no man in their life,
they try to act as that father.
It's a particular swag you don't get if you don't get it from a man.
That's true. That's true.
It's a particular haircut you don't get unless you get it from a man.
Yeah, both
that's definitely true. That's definitely true.
Because a man gonna know what barber not.
Yeah, give him the one. That's
exactly.
Him, no. Him, yes.
Right. Don't shape up at all. Just cut his hair.
That's it. Just cut it down.
So yeah, I was this cute, well-spoken kid, and then we moved into like a rough neighborhood, but it was the only place my mother could afford to live. And so that it was rough for me in the first few years, but I learned to toughen up. I think after being bullied one too many times, and with my mom not wanting me to be so combative and physical, and that's not the way to handle things. And with my grandparents, I was never taught that violence was the solution. But living where I lived in New Community at 225 Huntington Street.
My dad used to work for that company.
Yeah. 225 Huntington Street. There was a gentleman in the neighborhood by the name of Kareem Thomas.
He's probably still there.
No, he's not there anymore. Oh. So he was someone that everyone was afraid of. No one would stand up to him. My mom had a boyfriend at the time, and me and him had gotten into an altercation. And I went to the house crying and said, "Mom, I have to fight him. Because if I don't fight him, everybody's going to pick on me for the rest of my life." And it just so happens that her boyfriend was there at the time, a gentleman by the name of Calvin. And Calvin said, "Let him fight." My mother was very stressed out. She said, "No." It was a struggle between those two.
Yeah.
Like, "Calvin, come on, tell her, I have to fight."
Yeah.
And so he talked my mom into letting me fight Kareem. And I went outside, and me and Kareem had to fight. I lost the fight, but everyone in the neighborhood respected me because I fought back.
That's right.
Because I stood up for myself.
Absolutely.
And although I lost, no one ever gave me a problem since. Because no one else stood up to him.
That's how it works.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I had adults wanting to shake my hand, give me my respect, only because I stood up.
They see how brave you were.
Right. And so, I feel like I was brainwashed in a sense to feel and believe that violence was a solution. And quite frankly, it was the solution to a certain extent. Then when you get older, you kind of realize, no, it's really not the solution. It never was. There was always a different way to handle it, but that's how everyone in that world,
right?
Because that was a different world, although it was still part of our world. That was its own world, its own community, because it was poverty. Well,
I think a lot of times we kind of try to find right now success, right? It's like what works right now. Sometimes we don't think about the 10 years from now or the next bully that will come along who isn't from the community. So I think a lot of times, we think about how can I solve this problem now to stop this guy from messing with me now.
That's right.
So we kind of find temporary solutions within our communities and things like that. So
that
was your temporary solution.
And that was your temporary. I was about to say
that was temporary. But it changed my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Because had I not fought back, I think today I wouldn't be the man that I am right now. If I didn't fight back and just learn that lesson from and the lesson was just about standing up for yourself.
That's it.
Because bullies are intelligent. They know who not to mess with.
Of course.
And ultimately, I do feel that he probably would have came back another time and still tried to pick with you anyway. So regardless, you were still going to be, in that situation where you had to defend yourself regardless. So I think, sooner or later it was going to happen.
I would have been their form of entertainment because they knew that I would not fight back. And so if I did not fight back, of course, I would have been everyone's punching back. Everyone's mental punching back.
Come on, Chrissy.
You kidding me?
Interruption.
That's just what millennials do.
Sorry, guys. So with the situation that happened, it definitely showed how brave you are. I think that can definitely basically speak for itself when it comes to you as a person, as an individual, and who you are and what you're about. Because, I mean, in a situation, you know, if it wasn't handled then sooner or later, I mean, he was going to come back and, you know, you would have to do something then. So, I mean, that's
temporary
good.
fix.
Right. It's a temporary fix for a long-term solution, basically,
right?
Like,
He bullied you in high school?
So no, it wasn't high school. This was like middle school, and it happened in the neighborhood and not in school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was high school like for you? You know, after that situation, you know, I'm sure you kind of felt a little bit more cockier, you know. So now, so now you go to high school. Like, how was that for you?
High school was like the most fun I've ever had in life. Mm-hmm. Like high school, because I had that confidence, like you just said.
Right.
Right. I wasn't afraid of anyone. And I was a singer too.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I was in a glee club in high school.
Really?
Your dad was a singer too, right?
My dad was a singer. He used to sing in a singing group called the Creators.
Okay.
Wow.
And they used to sing a lot of Whispers songs.
Mm-hmm.
So songs by the Whispers. But you know how in high school there were rap battles?
Yeah.
We had singing battles.
That's so
I always
dope,
wanted to be a part of something
seriously,
like that.
That is so dope. Like, I wanted to do that. I can't sing that well, but I got a little vocals.
I tried to sing for the stylistics, but it didn't work. The Silver Stars of Newark. Everybody knows Silver Stars.
No,
never
heard of them.
Y'all know what y'all missing.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
What was a turning point in high school for you, or maybe even after high school?
Yeah, I mean everything significant as far as changing and turning points happened after high school, because I was so careless and fearless. You know, in high school, you know, I didn't take life that serious. Not in high school. I was just having too much fun. You know, life was fun. It wasn't about being serious. And I think growing up in the urban neighborhoods, a lot of us weren't taught to be critical thinkers. Mm-hmm. So we never thought long term. You know? Right. We were just living for the moment. You know?
So that kind of leads me to my question. I noticed that you started a business right after high school.
Yeah.
What made you want to start a business and be a businessman?
You know what? I bought a Jeep, and I wanted to keep it clean. Mm-hmm. So I was very ambitious. I was always ambitious. Mm-hmm. So there was no internet. There was no email back then. Mm-hmm. So I had to handwrite letters to the companies in which I bought the wax from. So they used to be
Gotta get a shipment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I used to go to an auto store called R&S Strauss to get my waxes, and so on the back of the waxes I would write to the company, and I would ask, how do I keep my truck clean, and so they would respond. To my surprise, they responded to me. Mm-hmm. And so they sent me samples of waxes, they sent me letters, they sent me the VHS videos, because there was no DVD
back in the day. It was VHS.
Yeah. And like, wow. this was in the 90s. Okay. This is the very early 90s. I want to say 1990. And so
I wasn't thought of yet.
Yeah, so it was around that year. And so I became fascinated with keeping my truck clean. Mm-hmm. You know, and I used to do other people's cars. And so I wanted to get into car detailing. And so I would ask to work at car washes, but I would tell them straight up, I want to learn how to do this so I can start my own business.
Right.
And so no one welcomed me with open arms.
Like, you would take everything that we taught you and go do it and be our competition.
Yeah, so it was a lot of like practice.
Mm-hmm.
But when you practice, you make a lot of mistakes.
Uh-huh.
And luckily I made a lot of mistakes on my own car.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's how I became good, and that's how I learned from my own mistakes.
Right.
Know? And so, yeah, it was just a matter of me not wanting to really do it as a business. I just wanted to register the name of the business.
Right.
I was fascinated with the fact that I learned how to register a business.
Okay, yeah.
So there was a barber that I used to go to. His name was David, but the name of his company was Superior Cuts. Mm-hmm. And like, I was young, and that's kind of what stuck in my mind. I named my car detailing company Superior Wax.
But that's dope, though. It's still a stepping stone, even though that wasn't something that you probably did consistently.
Right.
It was still a stepping stone in your life, and it taught you some type of responsibility.
That's true.
So that's pretty good.
What made you take life serious? Did you still say you're still having fun, things like that? And sometimes, just like us, life hits us fast. Like, what made you take life?
Wow, that was later on in life, because even if I were to talk more about the business and how I ran it, I ran it based on what I was used to and what I saw. Like, so what I was used to and what I was used to seeing was people in uniforms. So I had uniforms, although I really didn't need them, right?
But you had them.
I was a kid,
right?
But I'm like, wait, I need uniforms, and I need logos, I need a patch on my uniform.
Right.
You know, I gotta look like I'm a hard worker. I had the hat and everything, and just saying, thank you for your business. You know, and that was kind of like all I knew, because I wasn't officially taught how to run a business. I just knew how to register a business name, but not how to run the business. You know, didn't really know much about pricing and overhead and things like that. I was just emulating what I saw, and what I thought was how to do good business, and that's kind of how, you know, I knew how to conduct business, just by looking at what I saw. Right?
It makes sense. It makes sense.
And as far as like, I mean, I had a few life changes. Like, so my life changed in different stages depending on what happened in what year. You know, I mean, we mature. Even now, we mature every day. We learn something new every day. We can never stop learning. So, although I feel like I have a lot of wisdom to share because I've been through a lot through no fault of my own, but I still feel like I have a long way to grow. You know what I mean?
What about 1996? Like, is that like? I know you had an incident. You had a run-in. Unfortunate run-in. It
was very unfortunate,
but it's so relevant to today. In the
oh man,
today, so.
Big time, like more than ever. And to talk to someone that lives to talk about being shot by the police. So in 1996, my car had gotten stolen, and they found the car in New York. We went to go pick up the car. They gave us the car. We were driving it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And so, to tell you, so that you know how the story's gonna go, New York forgot to take the car off of the National Crime Information computer.
Okay.
So the car was still considered stolen, right? But this happens more than you think, where you'll pick up your car, but it's not removed from the National Crime Information computer. You know what I mean?
Somebody didn't do their job.
Basically.
Right.
That's okay.
And that happens, right?
Yeah, it happens.
But it's different when you're black. Right?
Sure.
So, what happened, I was in Montclair. I was with a young lady. She was driving my car, and I was the passenger.
Pretty tall.
And so, the police just happened to pick our car out of every car they saw. And the plate came back stolen, obviously. We know why it came back stolen. So, we were just driving, and they started following us. And because the plate came back a hit, that's what they called it back then. I think they still call it.
Yeah, they still call it. Yep.
They call it a hit. And so, I don't know what was going through their minds as far as, I guess they were thinking, how are we going to apprehend these guys? You know, I guess they were thinking it was going to be a chase or something like that. You know, and I must say that would not have been the case. But to make a long story short, we were at a traffic light, and they approached our car using this stealth approach. They didn't turn on their siren. They didn't shine their lights. They didn't attempt to pull us over, right? They just, I guess they felt like they needed to corner us and be very aggressive and shoot first and ask questions after the fact. So, the cop on my side, because I was a passenger, he opened the door, and of course it scared the shit out of me. I mean, if you're just in your own world and you're talking to a driver and your car doors don't just open. You know what I mean? That just doesn't happen. So it's like when that happens, you know the sound of a car door opening, and you move so fast. You know what I mean?
Automatically.
And so the door opens, I react, you know, like this, like, whoa, you know, because I didn't want to fall out of the car. And all I heard was a boom, just a loud boom, you know what I mean? And, you know, I saw that it was a cop, and I saw his gun, and then you don't feel it when you're first shot, you know? So I didn't know I was shot. I heard the boom, and I'm looking like, whoa. And I'm thinking, like, did he just shoot her? But he shot me. And the bullet went through my finger, and it landed in her stomach, the young lady that I was with. And they pulled us out of the car. You know, they were very rude, and, you know, my hand was bleeding. They made us lay on the ground. We had to ride in 2 separate ambulances. You know, I was more concerned about my friend than I was for myself. You know what I mean? 'Cause I'm like,
I mean, most of us
friend?
do. Most of
Yeah.
us do. I mean, we had an incident where we got into a car accident, and he would not stop, you
Right.
know, talking to me and making sure I was okay
Right.
when he was injured more than
Yeah.
I was. So I
Yeah.
think sometimes that's just us as nature, just caring and making
Natural
sure that
instinct.
the other person is okay.
Right.
You know, but how did that shape everything else going forward?
So, back then, and I hate saying it like this, shooting unarmed black men started to trend in our communities, right? And then after all that happened, I started to dissect why me, why me. You
Right.
ask those questions every single day. Every single day, you're in the hospital, you ask, why me? And so, you know, thinking that and trying to dissect it and trying to find some sort of good reason why me, right? I could never find a reason why me, right? And so I'm like, damn. I had to come to grips with it being the fact that I was black, you know? That's why me, because you're black, you know? But I still didn't want that to be life for me, you know?
Right.
I didn't want to live like that. I didn't want to teach my children that. And so, you know, it was like just thinking more and more, still asking, why me, you know?
Right.
And so I really had to think, well, what if I was white? You know what I mean? You know, and if I were to reenact, right, because of the amount of social intelligence that I have now, right, if I were to reenact the situation and it happening now, if I were white, the cops would have been like, what's wrong with this picture?
Yeah.
That plate came back stolen, but what's wrong with this picture? They're white. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's find out what's going on.
Yeah.
There must be some sort of misunderstanding because they're not speeding, they're not driving erratical or anything like that. So it's like, let's just pull them over. You know, like I'm putting myself in the cop's shoes and I'm putting myself in their mindset. Let's just pull them over. You know what I mean? And I'm getting out the car as a cop, like I'm pretending I'm a cop. And I'm like, all right, so they're pulling over, right? They don't look like they're afraid, right? They look sort of confused. They're probably they look like they're asking what's going on, right?
Right.
And so if I'm coming like
Got some tissue?
yeah, just a little bit.
I know this is pretty emotional for you.
Every once in a
Yeah.
blue moon I shed a tear or two.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's necessary. It's necessary for us to get out these emotions
Yeah.
because it's a part of being who we are, and that's
True.
men. And I think that's something that kind of get lost. You know, as men, we don't show emotion, so
True.
I appreciate that to see,
Yeah.
and it's good to see that. You know,
Yeah.
it's still
I
it
appreciate that, yeah.
still hits a sensitive spot to
Oh,
you.
man.
Yeah,
you know, like-
and even as a black woman, just seeing you know, become emotional about something, that speaks volume of who you are. And
Yeah, we're
just-
taught to
yeah.
never show emotion.
Yeah, and,
As a parent,
you know,
we taught to never
as
show that.
Black women, we don't get to see our black men show emotions that much, you know, because they have to put up this stigma of being like the man and
Right.
being tough and being, you know, the guardian.
Right.
So it's like sometimes a lot of black men are afraid to put down those borders,
Yeah.
you know. So I appreciate you, you know, sharing your story with us. And you know, I know it could be emotional. I have
Yeah.
a story. We all have stories.
True,
I have
true.
a story.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I
yeah.
get emotional about it too. So they know.
I think it speaks
Yeah.
volumes too to look at your trajectory and see where
Yeah.
you've come down, and you can
Right.
actually implement change.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Considering,
Yeah.
you know, you run
Yeah.
for councilman at large, you can actually implement change and
Yeah.
come up with ideas to kind of change certain things. And that you're in a great position right now.
It's it's like the gift and the curse because
Yeah.
it's like I've been there,
Mhm.
so I can tell you about it. You know, I can empathize if you're feeling a particular way about police brutality and encounters with the police. You know,
Yeah.
so you know I can relate. You know what I mean? As opposed to someone who will never know how that feels.
Yeah.
You know, who will never experience that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think when it comes to politics, right, and it being so local, I just feel like, you know, a person who has a little dirt on their shoulder has more to offer because it's about life's experiences and what it taught you
Absolutely.
and what it made you into. And so
Absolutely.
long as, you know, you're humble
Yeah.
and you're willing to, like, share your
Right.
story, share your wisdom, teach lessons as a result of these things having actually happened to you, and to be grateful enough to live to talk about it. So it's
Absolutely.
like,
and I think that's like that in itself is something major.
Absolutely.
It's something that we don't see often. Somebody to be able to live and actually tell how that shaped them and shaped their future. Because look, we're here today, and you're running for city council.
Yeah.
From there to here, that's a lot of growth.
That is
right.
a lot.
That's a lot of growth.
But what I still feel like is a shame. It's like, oh, well, thank God I didn't die. But damn, why I gotta thank God that I didn't die?
I shouldn't have to go through it in the first place.
You shouldn't have been in the first place.
Absolutely. That kind of brings me into a question that I wanted to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
With that experience with the injustices of the justice system and police brutality, how do you feel about like the Black Lives Movement now in 2020 with everything that's going on, with everyone out here protesting in America and all across the world, about police brutality and, the excessive force of policing. How does that affect you like now?
So when I got shot by a police officer, right? The only thing I wanted to do is make sure that never happens to my son.
Absolutely.
Right? At the same time, I wanted to protect my son. I wanted to shelter my son from that madness. So I think fathers of my generation, we withheld a lot of that depressing information and storytelling from our kids because we didn't want our kids to just grow up hating themselves, feeling less than, feeling oppressed, feeling sad, feeling angry and scared. So we didn't share that with our children because we wanted them to we wanted them to feel free, and we made them feel like they could conquer anything.
Right.
So that was our job, to make you believe you can conquer anything, because I think back then we felt like the world would change, when our kids got older. And so fast forward to today, what's going on, and with the whole Black Lives Matter movement, I feel like it never stopped happening. It got worse.
Yeah.
And we just got a camera.
Yeah. It's being filmed, and so everyone is getting caught in that moment where your true character prevails, that unguarded moment of truth, right? Where you didn't know you were being recorded, and so now it's all over YouTube. Our kids are so intelligent; they're 10 times more intelligent than we were. The human brain I think it just keeps evolving.
Yes, it does.
And so your generation and the generation before you, like, we can't hide nothing from y'all. We can't tell y'all how to feel.
Everything's accessible.
And so
we know everything.
what you guys are doing different now, like you're calling the world out for what the world did.
Right.
And you have this huge stage. You have everyone listening to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? You've got the whole world listening to you. You even have other minority races and white people joining the movement because I feel like they think that it could be them next. It could be the Spanish community next. It could be the Indian community next. So I think
the
that
Asian community, yeah.
exactly. So the fact that nothing is hidden anymore, everything is out in the open. And everything is out, and so there's nothing that you cannot Google. If you want the truth,
you just
can
Google
find it.
Yes.
And so I think everyone is angry with the truth, and they're angry that their fathers, grandfathers, great grandfathers had it worse than them.
Yeah.
And so they're standing up, and they're not afraid to stand up.
Yeah.
But they're standing up with intelligence.
Right.
So I feel like the Black Lives Matter is just getting warmed up. That whole movement is just getting warmed up. But everyone has to stay purposeful.
Right.
Because if you protest without a plan, it's just a parade.
That's all it is.
And so
I like how you worded that.
I go to a lot of protests, and you hear people talk because they want to be heard. But let's talk solutions.
Yes.
Let's not be a real life talk show. When you tune into your television, talk shows for 1 hour, and then once the talk show is over, like, damn, I didn't really
get nothing out of that.
Yeah, it was fun to listen to, but what were the solutions?
And there's something that I say all the time, let's make it a movement, not a moment.
Right.
And I think that, like you said, that consistency is key.
Right.
To everything. Us being consistent and pushing that agenda and moving it forward consistently, not just through media, but through everyday actions.
True story.
Yeah, like I think you said, like you mentioned earlier, like the solution for me, and I think you mentioned it earlier as well, inclusion.
Yes.
And what better person to have, on the podium than you for inclusion, right?
Right.
So you want to elaborate on your plan for inclusion and why you relate to that?
So I think that inclusion to me means including yourself, putting yourself and making yourself part of the solution.
Yeah.
Running for city council is what I'm doing. We need to get more into politics, because then you can help create the solution, vote on the solution, implement the solution. Your voice is certainly louder, and everyone knows how to express themselves. So as far as I'm only the beginning, I think I represent the people that think that politics is not for them. I represent the people that think that they can't be of a significant impact on the future of your local community, because that's where it is most important.
Yeah.
Because all of our challenges happen locally. All of our issues are local issues.
Right.
And so it's going to be more than just us protesting intelligently.
Yeah.
We have to make the politicians listen to us. We have to make them respect us, right? And so we have to let them know that our numbers will really impact the outcome of your future as a politician.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think this kind of moving to a question that I have. You said we want to impact. We want to definitely vote in these things locally, and of course primarily also. But I think it's something you mentioned. We are protesting and things like that, and most people that are protesting are our youth. So how can you inspire and motivate the youth to not only go out and protest, and of course that's what they're going to do anyway, but how can you inspire and motivate them to now show up and vote for the primaries, as well as locally, to vote for city council and for governors and things like that, understanding how do that affect them personally?
I think that because local politics is not taught in our history books, it's not taught in our schools, I think the leadership starts in the home.
Right.
So it has to be our parents, our guardians, to really make local elections just as important as a presidential election.
Right.
Parents and guardians, grandparents need to make sure that the children in their home go with them to go vote.
Absolutely.
They understand who's running and why they're running.
Why they're running.
And sometimes, like, if I'm a grandparent and I have a grandchild and I'm new to a community, or I'm just maybe new to voting locally, I'm going to have my grandchild Google who's running.
Yeah.
And let them articulate, who's the best candidate. Because I want to make sure that the person is running. I want to make sure that that person is someone that my grandkids can relate to, because after I'm done living, I got to pass the torch down to someone.
Right.
I have to create a protege. I have to bring someone else into the mix so that they can, continue to lead our community.
The nature. Outside of nature, it happens.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. So, so I think even me, I'm 46 years old, right? I can't do this forever. I'm going to age out.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to become corny to your generation. You know what I mean? So I gotta bring somebody your age in,
right?
Especially if they want it.
Yes.
And that's half the battle, right? It's like you want it. The first step is you don't know who to go to, but then when you go to someone who you think is the person to go to, they mislead you.
Right.
They steer you in the wrong direction,
Yeah, that's true.
because you're a threat, and I'm thinking I want to die with a legacy.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want anything from you. I don't want your money. I just want you to say thank you, or Councilman Graham, help me get here.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? He groomed me. He took me under his wing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And I think, a lot of people, they focus on, presidential candidates, right?
Right.
Whereas local, it affects you, faster.
Yes.
Quicker.
It affects
It affects
everything.
you more, right?
It affects everything. School.
So I think people should get out there and vote locally. I mean, that's like, I wouldn't say it's most important, but it is important.
No, it's the most important. Honestly,
Yeah.
when you think about it, when it comes to the presidency level, the president isn't the one that's really making the rules. He's not the one that's really controlling everything. It's the local politicians that we have to worry about because they're the ones in our communities that's actually implementing the change. Absolutely. So I think right now, if people don't know it now, it's the best time. Get out there, vote locally.
That's right.
Because it's what's going to affect us, not just now, but in the long run. Because I'm going to say, even as yourself.
Right.
Right now, you're running for council at large, but later you might be running for mayor.
That's right.
And then later you're going to be running for governor.
Yeah.
Then after that, maybe Senate. You know what I'm saying? So, and you never know. You might be our president one day. You know what I mean? So, I'm just saying, like, it is very important for our youth, even people my age. I'm 27, so we're still young. Let's get out here. Let's vote locally, and let's make sure that we're putting the right people in office. Right. Because it's a lot of people that's being put in office, and they don't deserve it at all.
You have to make sure that the people that you're voting for, like, they're leading through listening, right? Because you can't lead if you don't listen.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think that it's important that you know who they are, right? So a lot of people, and I guess that we have to change that. A lot of people don't know who their council person is.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't know. You know? So I think that when someone like me, like you, when we raise the bar, it's going to elevate everyone. It's going to force everyone to work harder for that vote. You know what I mean? Now that vote is important. You know, whereas and typically in local elections, the same people vote all the time. Yeah. The minute we can bring in an extra 300 voters, that can change the whole future of a community.
That can swing the pendulum of what's going on.
I do agree with you when you said that it does start from home.
Yes.
And I don't have any children, but these two have children, and they're very, very intelligent young men. And I tell them this very often. If not, then I need to say it more. But
I appreciate it.
I know for a fact that they are going to raise children that are going to be in the voting booths locally. To vote locally. And me, as someone who don't have children, the only thing that I can do is I can educate the youth around me, whether it's my younger siblings or if it's my friends. You know, so I do pass the word. So I think it is very crucial, and I can't even stress that enough, like, to say how important it is to vote locally, because primaries is cool and all, but like I said, it starts from the bottom. Like, you have to worry about the bottom of the total pool at the moment, because that person is going to progress and they're going to be at the top one day. And you're going to, you want to make sure, like, so I think it is very important. Like, I really appreciate what you said, because it does start at home. Same thing with kids going to school. The way they act at schools is because it starts at home.
That's right.
You know, so
and it starts here. So what make Plainfield the ideal place for you to run for city council? Being that you grew up in Newark and things like that, why not consider, or like I said, what makes Plainfield that destination?
So this is my community. This is where I live. You know what I mean? This is the community that accepted me for who I am. I think another defining moment in my life was when I was just told to simply be yourself. You know, because you have to make people accept you for who you are. So you don't have to change the way you talk. You
Absolutely.
know, because when you try too hard, you know, you start stuttering and you're just not yourself. Right. So as far as Plainfield, I mean, you can only run in the town that you live in. But if anyone is thinking about running and becoming a community leader, I think the thing that you should do first is to get to know your community. You know, spend 5 years just learning the community, listening to people. You know? And then at that 5th year, you'll know what the community needs. You'll know what the community is missing. You will see the transitions over the years. You know, if you just watch, observe, you'll learn who's who in the community.
Yeah.
You know, and you'll learn like some leader of some leaders who really have to go in a community. And if you watch and study long enough, you'll learn that, you know what, they have a lot of influence because of what they promise to certain people. Where politics is about everyone. You know, so me particularly, I'm running for the at-large seat, which is all 4 wards. So it's every section of our town, and it's every race in our town. And my job, like I said, is just to make sure that every ward feels like they live in the best ward. And my job is to listen to everyone, you know? And I'm not going to, you know, give you more favor just because you're black like me, right?
Absolutely.
We all have to live in this community together. And if I want this community to be the safest community amongst other communities in this state of similar demographics, it's going to take including everyone at the table. Because the way I think and the way you think is different.
Absolutely.
And many times other people's ideas are better than yours. But we need more ideas than just 2 people who think alike or think different. So I think the more diverse the decision making, the better the outcome of the decision. So the more diverse the people at the table, the better the outcome is going to be for everything that happens in our community.
I just have a quick question on that. I know we spoke about inclusion already, but I kind of wanted to ask this question early on, but since we're still talking about diversity, do you have an idea or what are your plans to include, you know, the Hispanic population? I'm sorry. I'm very tongue-tied. I don't know why. I'm very tongue-tied right now. But how do you plan on doing that? Because I know, like, with Plainfield, I live here as well. You know, it's a lot of Hispanic people you see. I mean, it's a lot of, you know, different cultures here, but you do see a lot of Hispanic people, and I'm pretty sure it's very important for them as well as you to you know, have someone in office that's going to be, you know, like you said, for all people and for equality. So how do you plan on including them as well?
So it's simple. So you gotta find people who are willing to run, because just because you're Spanish doesn't mean I'm going to say, hey, I need you to represent all these people. And that's not what you want. You know, that's not your passion, right? So first we have to find someone in which politics and being a community leader is their passion without having an agenda, right? And so I'm not just going to I'm not going to go through my mental Rolodex, wait, who's Spanish that can be on my team? And only a few names come up. But I only asked myself, I'm thinking of my own Rolodex, rather than putting the energy and the question out there to the public. You know, because if we think of a Spanish leader, right, let's just say in our country, right, first person that comes to my mind is AOC, right? See, but there's more leaders in this country than AOC. So now I'm talking about politics and local politics. Now I gotta look only in Plainfield. So I gotta ask around, you know. I can't just look at the usual suspects, especially when they had so many years to get involved and help out and do what they had. And if I look back at the Spanish people that we had on our council prior, and then I look at what they've done, I'm not going back to that person. And there's a reason why that person did not get reelected. So it's just it's about searching. And the search is not going to be easy. So I think, you know, when we find the search being a challenge, we tend to just take whatever comes up next. And let's look for substance in everyone and find the people that we need to move this community forward.
Whether it's the color doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's the agenda. It's it's the policies, and I think those things are the factor, not necessarily meaning the race.
That's right. My personal belief is like, you would be successful as a politician if you love God and you love people. That's it.
And even going back to community, I think you have an extensive history, an extensive footprint on this history. Like you did numerous things. I can't even go into half of the things that you did for this community. But also the thing that stuck out with me, I judge a person based off of what they did during the pandemic, right? Even companies, I judge them based off of what they did for their employees during the pandemic. You was out there in the front line, handing out masks, gloves, and everything else. That's really good. Like, you know, that's a selfless act.
Right.
To be out there in the front line, helping people out.
In the climate that we were, you know. You're talking about something that we were unsure what exactly was.
Yeah, you didn't know what it was. You just out there in the front line, you know,
There was, when I was watching the movie Ray, when the movie Ray came out, and the gentleman that I think was Ray's road manager, and he did something with the lighting at one of Ray's shows, right? And Ray said, "Why did you do that?" And the guy said, "Because I felt like it should be done." And so, like, that was like an aha moment in my life. Like, you know, I get that because that's who I am, and I never knew how to respond to people. You know what I mean? Like, because it should be done. And that's kind of why I do things, because they should be done, you know? And I'm so used to telling people telling me what can't be done and what I should not do. And when they had no control over my actions, you know, and then when I started to take control of my own actions, just do it because it needed to be done, the reward was me giving back and what it did for others. And so I never want to stop doing that. I never want to stop having that feeling. I never want to stop, you know, uplifting and just whatever it takes to make that small change in someone else's life that's, you know, going to make my life better because of what I do for others.
Right. Now I have a quick question. Now, you know, well, of course, with COVID, you know, the schools are closed. A lot of programs for youth and elderly are not happening right now. You know, during this quarantine. So I kind of wanted to know, like, you know, you being a mentor and all that you do with the youth and, you know, different programs in the city, what are some plans, or if you don't have any yet, what are some ideas that you have to kind of get everybody back together? Like, you know, of course, in the regulations of the social distancing. Like, you know, can you, like, tell us, like, a little bit of, like, what you have in mind?
You know, I've always been the kind of leader that would not, well, I've always been the kind of parent that I would make sure that I'm handling my own responsibility first before I start to point fingers at my leaders as to what they're not doing in my school for my kids when I'm very capable. You know what I mean? So, you know, I think that I would really, and this is what I've been doing, you have to continue to have a strong alliance with parents. And I think as a leader, you can't be afraid to tell parents, like, hey, you know, this is the world that we live in. You know, if you don't have internet access, let me help you get internet access, right? Let's go on YouTube. Let's learn some things. And a lot of parents don't really know where to start. And you kind of got to keep it simple, right? So, you know, you have your kids do simple math questions, you know? You do like a ton of simple math questions until they master it, until they get every question right. Then you make it a little bit harder, right? You know, because you have to give the children a sense of reward and accomplishment. You know, so the way that you teach, you have to make sure that the child feels like they can do it on their own. So, you know, it's a lot of YouTube. You learn everything.
You learn everything.
On YouTube.
I wish YouTube was was there when I was struggling
when I was
in high school.
Up, like, seriously,
you can type up a math problem and get the answer to
and
it.
get the whole answer, everything. So yes.
So it's about challenging our children and demanding academic excellence from our children. We gotta prepare our kids for the real world. Being that we know what the real world is like, it's like, you know, we would be doing a disservice to our kids if we did not prepare them, you know, and making it hard for them, making them earn their way, you know.
And discipline as well, I think.
Discipline is very important.
I think discipline is something
is very important.
That in different forms, of course, you know, discipline is necessary, you know, so I think that plays a big part in it too.
So I think today, how we discipline our children is very different from how it used to be.
You can discipline in a sense back then. Now it's more so you take the phone and things like that. But what I mean by discipline, as in when things doesn't go your way and things like that, how do you discipline yourself? Something that I discipline myself with is meditation. And I spend a lot of time, in my head and calming my thoughts and things like that to, teach myself patience in a sense. That's what I mean by discipline is really patience. And I think meditation helps me a lot.
So working out helps me. Helps me out tremendously. It's something that I got heavily into, especially when I lost my finger, because I felt like I had to compensate for missing a body part because I was still young, and I was still, I'm still into women, but I was more into women back then, and I just felt like missing a body part would deter women from dealing with me.
To deal with you.
And that wasn't the case at all, as a matter of fact. But it's kind of like why I worked out harder, and just to deal with so many of my own stresses. Working out just gave me a way to relieve all of my stresses. I think the way that I grew up, and a lot of African American boys and men, like, if we were to all be diagnosed with PTSD, it would be very rightful.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's something that is funny because those things aren't really spoke of in a community, within a community. Outside the community, of course, you can see the post-traumatic stress. Me and Statham talk about it all the time. Even Chrissy hear us talk about it, and just how we believe we normalize things within our communities, not just black communities, but in all communities. Certain things, we just feel it's fine just to be okay. Yeah, it's fine. A gunshot. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Somebody got shot. You hear something? Okay. Somebody got shot.
Exactly. It becomes something that we shouldn't be accustomed to hearing, but it is. And these are the things. And I'm actually read that you actually picked up karate. Actually. Yeah. That you were actually a black belt.
Black belt.
So you can kick somebody's face off, basically. It's funny because that's something that I want to get my son into, and not for the physical aspect of it, but for the mental discipline aspect of it, and that's what that discipline conversation was stemming towards.
Martial arts, right? It helps you develop character, right? And with the right instructor, who's an awesome teacher, you have your karate family that you grow up with, right? You learn how to socialize, you compete, and you win and you lose battles, and the big lesson is how you handle those wins and those losses, right? It's thanking the person that you just had a fight with, because it's a sport, but the loss makes you understand that you did not train hard enough, or you need to train more. The win with a good instructor, your instructor is going to humble you and say, you're not going to win every battle, right? A good instructor is going to prevent you from being cocky, and he's going to honestly help you be a great leader with all the teachings that martial arts give you. It's like self-preservation, right? And so with that level of discipline, the journey to get promoted from white belt to yellow belt, orange, purple, green, brown, and black, depending on your system, like you earn every step of the way, and it's not an easy journey, you know what I mean? Yeah. Especially in our community, because the martial art instructors in the black community, they don't get rich off of martial arts because we just don't have that $150, $180 to $200 per month for our, and if we have more than one child, it can be expensive. But in our community, I think you just helped me realize that we have to give the utmost respect to our martial arts instructors, because they obviously don't do it for the money,
They do it for the love of it.
The teachings and just the talent, if they were to take that talent and teachings to the suburbs, they can be rich. But a lot of martial art instructors don't do that. And so, yeah, I feel like, whoa, I need to take the money that I earn and give part of it to my instructor.
Yeah.
You know, now that I think back at it, like you woke me up to something that I really never thought about. You know, and I may have thought about it, but I probably didn't give it like deep enough
thought.
thought.
Yeah.
And so part of martial arts, right, is bigger than just punching, striking, doing katas, and knowing how to break bricks and break wood. I think, you know, you apply those teachings into everyday life.
Right.
I think a mistake that I made as a parent was not taking my children with me to negotiate for my car, to buy my home, you know, to encounter with other adults, to meetings, you know, to committee meetings and things like that, you know, places that I should have taken my children to so that they can see me interact with other adults and see me negotiate.
Right.
That would have been an ultimate lesson to my children, but that was a mistake that I made. So, you know, going
learn
forward,
from that.
Going forward, you know, if they need it now, you're definitely gonna be there by their side. So that's what matters.
Yep.
And now, you know, you have more knowledge, more wisdom to go about those situations differently, and probably come out with an even better outcome than you would have before.
Yeah.
So
true story. Yeah.
That's like the beauty of minorities, though, right? Like you take nothing to make something from it, right?
That's right.
And you think of it like oxtails, the dish oxtails, right? It's like
That's
a
right.
leftover like trash meal, right? When you think about it now, and you go to a restaurant.
Oxtail's the most expensive thing.
You know what I'm saying? So
especially a Jamaican restaurant. I'm just
exactly,
saying.
like you take things, you make, you know, you make
get
beauty
a
out
little
of
bit
it.
too.
That's right.
And for me, you know, I was defining things like, you know, a man is defined not by his wins, but by his losses. You know, you know how many times you fall. You know, that one time you win means everything. You
That's
know,
right.
so I mean that's something powerful. Like I said, for you, martial arts was, you know, that developing and that character and built character. And for most of us, it's those losses, those consistent losses, but getting up every time to try again. We have had failing businesses before, you know, and it's like we still push every day to still work towards that perfection, you know, and our idea of perfection, not what the masses, you know, define as perfection or success.
You have to do what works for you. You have to find your passion.
Right.
You know, I know a lot of blue collar millionaires, you know, because they followed their passion. You know, period. And they were just responsible with their money. You know, I teach people to pay your bills before you eat. And of course, I don't mean that literally, but if you think like that, then the world is yours to conquer, because you're going to have good credit because you were responsible with your money. And the credit bureau agencies are going to notice that. So it's what you do with that $1 million credit line. You don't have the actual $1 million, but the credit line is more important. You know what I mean? So, you know, what are you going to do? You're going to like go buy a car, buy a house with an 800 credit score that you didn't work hard to get. It's just that you were just responsible with your money. You paid your bills first.
Absolutely.
Period. Very simple. Pay your bills first.
That kind of like brings me to another question. I know I have so many, but I know that you're into real estate. You're actually a real estate broker, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, how do you feel about like the youth, you know, buying homes rather than renting? You know, like, because I know there's a thing like even in Newark, I'm pretty sure in other communities too, where me particularly, I feel like a lot of young black people or young people in Newark or in those urban areas, we get accustomed to, you know, renting because that's what's presented to us by our parents. And, you know, like even my parents, you know, my dad still rents and he's almost 60. My mom still rents. She lives here in Plainfield, but she's renting still, you know. So rather than being so accustomed to that, I have this whole new way of thinking of like, I don't want to just rent, I want to own. So, you know, I know that that's something that the field that you're into. How do you feel about, you know, people like the youth wanting to rent versus owning?
So, I think it's about financial literacy, right? That is something important that isn't a big topic in school.
It's not.
Right? And it should be, right? Because we have to teach our children how to handle money, you know? And so, I always encourage, you know, people to save their money and buy a home. I mean, other ethnicities do it so easily. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, a lot of people that I encounter, right, that are non-black, you know, and I'm just being very candid with you, right? They don't look like, you know, they got good credit. They don't look like they're gonna pay cash for that house.
Yep.
But when they make an offer and you look at the paperwork, the house is $250 and they're paying cash. You know what I mean? And that comes from just hard work and dedication, you know.
Yep.
In our community, right? So here's what I would, here's the advice that I would give to anyone in our community. Like, you know, let people make fun of you for what you don't have.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because everything that you have to buy, and it's an expense.
Yep.
It's debt. And so the less debt you have, the more money you're gonna have to save. And it's that down payment that's important. Either it's your down payment or you're paying cash. However long it takes you to save up after you set your goal, because you have to set a goal first, you know? And so if you start young, being responsible with your money, you can have anything you want. You can live anywhere you want, you know, because banks look at your credit score and your income. And so we have people that are very, very responsible with their money because it's a discipline, going back to your word. That's a discipline, because you have to not care about what other people think.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You gotta make those sacrifices. You know, even you know, if you're thinking about starting a family, you should give that very deep and careful thought, because when you start with your first child, that's where your debt starts, right?
Yeah.
You know, your first car, that's where your debt starts. Your first credit card, that's where your debt starts. So you kind of have to think really, really deep into the whole equation and be a very critical thinker. You got to think long term, you know?
I think that's something that I always talk about with some of my friends. Like, I have one friend, and me and her, we always have these deep conversations about being credit conscious and being debt free, and, you know, wanting to buy a home rather than renting. We talk about this a lot, and she's like very more materialistic than I am. Like, she likes the, you know, the high-end brands and like Off-White, Louis, and all that. Me, I'm very simple. I don't need all that stuff. And what I had to explain to her, what she understands now, is that you don't need all of that to solidify who you are.
That's right.
To fit in with anyone, because at the end of the day, you have a goal. And in order for you to accomplish that goal, you have to make sure that you're making smarter decisions. You can't sit here and buy a bag for $1,200 and think that you're going to be able to buy that house in a timely manner that you want. You know, because if you're carrying those nasty characteristics now, you're going to continue later. And you need to nip it in the bud now while you're young, and before you get to that point of buying a home. Because even though you buy one home, that doesn't mean your journey stops there.
That's right.
You know, you want to kind of make sure that you're going to be financially stable for any situation that you're put in. So that's something that I always try to encourage my friends, you know, to get into and be understanding of that.
I think at worst, right? If you're bad at saving money, do whatever you can to buy your home, right? And then you can still be bad with money, but keep paying your mortgage. Once your mortgage is paid off, you know, if you want to
be bad with spending on your house. That's the first thing to do. You always want to have a roof over your head before you have anything else.
You're very successful in real estate, right? So you don't want to get into how you became that, but being a realtor and almost like a politician is like nearly the same, right? With tools, and when I say that, it's like, you know, you kind of want to put your best policies out there. Like, I have the best policies in a sense where you want to showcase your skills. What skills did you learn from being a realtor that you actually brought along with you to being a politician now?
So, the skills that I learned from being a realtor that I can apply to my political career. I mean, just when you sell a person a product, right? Especially a house, they got to wake up in that house every day, right? And you want them to think back, and you want them to say, I made the right decision, you know? Because we're all experts in our fields. So, like, let's just say you're a doctor, and I'm a rocket scientist. Like, I don't know nothing about being a doctor, you know? But I'm a rocket scientist, you know? You're a doctor. You know nothing about being a rocket scientist, but you're a doctor. You got a PhD. And so that's how it is with real estate. You know nothing about how to buy a house and where to buy and things like that. So it's up to us to lead you in the right direction and not mislead you. And so it's all about, you know, the how I feel selling you the product, you know, because it's in my conscience, and because I'm here for the long haul, like I'm gonna die doing real estate. I just don't want any of that to be on my conscience. You know what I mean? Like, whoa, that house I sold to that guy 10 years ago, that was a bad deal, but he listened to me, and so, you know, I made the commission. Like, I can't live with that, you know. And let's just say if you did get a bad deal from listening to me, you're gonna learn at some point. You know, even when your guests come over, like, whoa, what made you buy this house? How much you pay for this house?
I think that's a big thing. Wait, who's the guy?
Yeah,
exactly.
Who's that guy?
Yeah,
Make sure I never
exactly.
Make sure I never go to him.
Yeah.
So reputation is something that's
everything.
That's everything.
It's everything. Like, it's everything.
So you want
like,
people that put you in office to feel like they made a great decision.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, you know, it's just about being authentic and being fearless, right? And I have no one to answer to.
It's
you know?
something that comes back again, fearless.
Exactly.
Your childhood.
Yeah. So I have no one to answer to. Okay, this is my son. I have no one to answer to. And so, you know, and I only want the best for my community. So as a realtor, if I'm selling a town, I gotta have some good attributes to speak about when it comes to a municipality.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you know, I can't say, well, you know, Newark is getting better. Only 3 people got shot.
True. People are dying that never died before. You know, that's just something that's going on
At least
there.
it's not Jay. Like,
Right.
you know, you can't think like that, but that's what's up.
I mean, you know, it's what you're selling, and sometimes you could be a part of the solution, right? So as a realtor, even if I never decided to get into politics, I still be doing 90% of the things that I'd be doing as a politician, as a realtor, because I have a direct effect, you know, because it's what I'm selling. It's who I need to talk to. It's getting involved. It's serving on committees. It's getting on zoning boards and planning boards.
Right.
Yes.
And that's why we have to get involved, because it's because we don't even try to get involved. That's part of the reason why we're not involved. We don't even try. You know what I mean?
Well, do you think is that we don't try, or the lack of knowledge that is there? Because I feel like a lot of times people are sometimes lost because of the miseducation. You know, the things that are not taught, in the sense that, you know, there are programs that can help people own homes.
Right.
There are programs out there. There are grants out there
Right.
for single parents.
Right.
You know, those things. So if you lack the knowledge that those things exist, how can you further or better yourselves? And it starts back with something as simple as education and
That's right.
school. I think
right.
everything comes back to school and that development process.
Also
Right.
at home too, though.
Right, but more so,
Definitely.
yes, home in a sense, but if you financial literacy, if you understand finances and understand how property taxes work and these things, when you understand that, you understand that the bank can give you loans for these things.
That's right.
You know, outside of going and you know, and making that $250,000 and then going to buy a home.
But a lot of us learn that financial literacy in our homes.
Right.
Because we're following the habits of our parents, or
Right,
our
right,
grandparents,
exactly,
or
right.
someone in our family that had everything that we want to have.
Right.
You know what I mean? The nice car, the nice house, you know what I mean? Always looking good, well groomed.
Yep.
So there's a cost to that, right?
Right.
So, like, you know, you got to make enough money to keep up with that lifestyle.
Right.
And so, you know, sometimes it's not being afraid to ask, you know, even if it's someone that is not your relative.
Right.
You know, your patience has to be unconditional,
Right.
because buying a house doesn't happen overnight.
It doesn't.
I sure don't.
Especially those grant programs.
Yeah.
You don't get
That can
those
take months.
instantaneously. That's right. So, again, you know, you got to go back to YouTube. But if you were,
YouTube is a key.
YouTube.
but if you were going to take my advice, you know, I would definitely encourage you to, like, do homework on your community.
Right.
Find out where it is that you want to live. Find out where it is that you want your children to grow up. You know, does this community feel like? Does it feel welcoming?
Right.
You know, is
Right.
my child going to have an awesome time growing up?
Right.
You know, or is my child going to have awesome friends? Or you can look at one. You can look at a community and say, "Whoa, there's so many kids out here. They just need a dad with. They just need a dad with some swag. You know what I mean? Like my children's friends. My children's friends always looked up to me. I mean, they always thought I was the coolest dad. You know?
I can see that. I can see that. I get the vibe where it's like,
you pretty chill. So I don't know, like
we're going to Rob house.
You know,
Exactly.
Pretty chill. You know, I like
so,
your vibe.
And I can give advice on so many topics because I lived all these topics.
Right.
Bad relationships. You know what I mean? You know, things
those
like
are
that.
common. Right. Those are common.
Yeah. Love being hurt. You know. How to dress, what you should not say,
and what you should not wear.
That's right. Yeah, and a lot of your success, you're gonna find that it's like listening to what people don't say will help you determine whether or not they have your best interest at heart.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
You know? Because of, you know what they don't say is gonna stand out.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely. Did you have a question, D?
I was gonna. I mean, it's like a trick question. Like when you buy a house, like where do you go for? School system or primary? It seems so simple.
Wow.
But
Seems
simple, but it's complex.
It's very simple, right? And here's my personal story when I bought my house, the one we're at right now, right? Mm-hmm. Moving from Newark, right? Two of my kids, they have the same mom. Their mother passed away in 2002, right? And so, of course, I had to take custody of them. And I had a girlfriend at the time, and she didn't seem like she wanted to jump on board and be my life partner with this new direction that my life has taken. Yeah. So I said, wow, I gotta get out of this apartment with my girlfriend. I gotta take my kids, and we gotta find a place to live, you know? So moving from Newark, I said, I just want to get out of Newark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like anywhere but Newark.
I was about to say.
Yeah. So, because I didn't want them to grow up like I did. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Growing up in Newark, I was every statistic when it came to young black male, right? And I wanted no parts of that for my kids. So I wanted to move to South Orange. South Orange was too expensive. I could not afford South Orange. I wanted Maplewood, same thing. You know, Livingston, all the places that I felt like the school system is awesome. My kids would grow up, you know, having an awesome life, you know what I mean? And school wouldn't be a problem. Could not afford those towns. Then I found Plainfield, right? Kind of by mistake. I found this house because of the way it looked. And I was up in the air. It was a big struggle because I said, whoa, school system sucks in Plainfield, you know? That's a nice house, you know?
Yeah, it is a nice house.
I took a ride out here and I said, whoa, this house is down the street from like commercial property, you know what I mean? It's not all just single family homes, you know what I mean? That I thought about that too, but you know, I'm like, I really like the house, you know? And I said, well, wait, I grew up in Newark.
Yeah.
This is like a country club.
Yeah.
And any
It's a vacation house.
Exactly. And any difference that can be made in my community, like I can make that difference. So
absolutely,
I'm going to take the chance. And that's what happened, you know. When my daughter was in school, I was president of the PTO. You know, only because I just wanted to be involved. I wanted to be somewhere close.
You want to make sure that
exactly,
she has that help.
Exactly. And I didn't want to make my daughter uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And there was a point in time where the real estate market had started to take a turn for the worst.
Which happens pretty often.
It happens every
10, have cycles.
10, 15 years it happens.
Cycles.
So this around the time the real estate market was going down. And luckily I was responsible with my money. And so I wasn't making much money in real estate, and I just had nothing but a lot of time to give away. And so I was at the school more than I was home. I mean, the people thought I worked there. I was there so much they gave me my own desk.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They gave me my own desk.
That's his section. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was there so much.
Coming.
And I was doing so much. You know, I just had a lot to offer, you know? And all I wanted to do was just be there for my daughter. But I had to be there for her friends and other kids as well.
Yeah.
I couldn't just be that selfish person that says it's all about my daughter and my daughter only.
Right.
Yeah.
It had to be about everybody.
Yeah.
You know, because my daughter wasn't the only person who had a need. Right. So, you know, so long as I had the time, I was willing to give whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, you know, my daughter and her friends, even when they came here to spend the night, I mean, they had the best time, you know what I mean?
That's dope. Yeah.
So that kind of leads into my question. What is some issues that you think Plainfield face, and what do you think is some solutions for those issues?
So, a big issue is everyone knows that our schools are an issue, right? Always has been to a certain extent. We're getting a lot better. Our leadership is changing,
Right.
and it's changing for the better. I think parents are really starting to understand the importance of especially in this epidemic, right? Like, it's like, wait, I gotta teach you now.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And I don't want you to be stupid, so wow.
Perfect way to put it. It's simple, simply put. Right.
Now I appreciate the role of a teacher.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I've seen a
It's
lot
crucial.
of posts like that on social media. Like, people like, thank you,
Underpaid.
teachers. Like,
Yeah.
like, thank you so much. You guys
Yeah.
do so much. Yeah.
So those are one of our challenges. I think that our in the local communities, we have to respect our police for what they don't do to us in our local community. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So we're talking about Plainfield, and I always ask when people give me pushback about defunding the police and what about the police? What about the police? And I ask, what about them? When's the last time an unarmed black man was shot in Plainfield by a Plainfield police officer? Let's not even talk about race. Let's just worry and think about Plainfield. Because when it comes to local politics, we can't get distracted and turn our politics into world politics. Let's make our community perfect first. Let's be the example as to what other communities can do in their community. Let's let them steal ideas from us. You know, let's be creative, let's be innovative, let's listen to our kids, let's be great leaders. You know, let's give stop the violence rallies in our own living room, you know, to our own kids. You know what I mean? This town is so small. So it's hard to get away with a lot in this town because people talk so much.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, keeping information is a burden. Like some people, it's a burden. They can't keep information in.
Hold the water. That's what my grandmother always put it. A man can't hold water.
Yes, that's like a famous saying.
So I think we know what our challenges are in Plainfield. We just have to have someone who's not afraid to tackle those challenges, who's not afraid to deal with those challenges, who's not afraid to tell it like it is. You know what I mean? And who can actually relate to the challenges that happen. You know, so when you have someone that can relate, who's been there, and they have a story, you know what I mean, like, and live to talk about it, you know, like what I have to offer is priceless. And if you were to pay me, I would not accept your money because it feels good. You know? Yeah.
Well, I think just from sitting here, you are the best person for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Sitting here,
Truly.
you know, just talking to you, conversing.
I'm glad you approve. Your approval means a lot to me.
Oh, if it's
No, seriously,
Sure,
I can't wait until they announce your candidacy
Oh
that you
man,
actually
me neither.
win.
Me neither.
Yeah.
You know?
I
Yeah, I'm gonna
can't
do
wait.
a victory lap.
Yeah, definitely the Hudson
That's
Crew.
what's up.
The Hudson
Yeah.
Crew podcast is 100% behind you.
And you know my
Yes.
definition of a
Definitely.
victory lap is just to get on my phone, hit the Facebook Live button, and just tell people to meet me at a certain corner. Now we're going to another corner. We're gonna hit all 4 wards. You know,
As you
and
should.
I'm gonna hitchhike. You know, I'm gonna ask for a ride across the town. You know? You know?
Look, I'm
Thumbs
local.
up.
You can call me if I'm home. I'll give you a ride, no
Because
problem.
I want people to know who their councilman is. You know?
You got the sun?
Fair that we bring the I mean, you have to show that.
Oh, yeah. I just want everybody to see the line with the vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You guys gotta go look at that.
Vote 9E.
Yes.
All right, guys.
And when is this election taking place?
On
Tuesday, July 7th.
July 7th.
If you have not
No,
sent
then
in your mail-in ballot, yep.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay.
Ha!
Wait, you should tell them where to go to vote.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think at this time, I think it's only fair that do you have anything else to say to the people? You can tell them where to find where to go and vote and everything. So, floor is yours.
So, the best way to reach me and find information about me and my campaign is just to go to mrplainfield.com. But as a leader in this community, even without politics, I'm placing the challenge on you, my adult brothers and sisters, especially you that have the dirt on your shoulder, especially you that have a past. I need you more than I've ever needed you before. I need you to help me uplift our youth. I need you to display and coach our kids, to help them learn from your mistakes, to help them grow up different than we did, to help them overcome adversities, to help them get through their challenges, to let them feel and know in their heart of hearts that anything is possible. If you got dirt on your shoulder, I want you on my team. Please, I need you. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
It's so great having you here. When I say it's honestly truly an honor.
Thank you.
Guys, you know it's us, the Hudson Crew podcast, so you know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment, let us know how you feel about, you know, our podcast in general, even this episode. It was a great honor to have Mr. Robert K. Graham here with us, aka Mr. Plainfield. You know, if you're in the area, if you live in Plainfield and you're watching this, definitely go out and vote 9E. He is honestly the most genuine person that I've encountered. And I mean, like, we're strangers. I don't know him and he don't know me, but you know, just sitting here with him, it was definitely an honor, and I appreciate you being here with us today. Thank you.
If you're not voting, you're doing yourself and your family a disservice.
Yes.
True. Definitely just go out there and vote.
Like I said, not just locally. President, you guys, the presidential election is coming up. We need you guys to be in tune, man. Keep pushing the agenda. Keep putting the right people in place. And this man is the right man for the job.
Let your voices get heard, you know. That's the perfect way to do it. Yeah. Perfect representation of, you know.
And if you don't know who your councilman is, that's a problem.
AD, can I get a thank you?
Thank you.
Thank you.